glass is very temperamental, and I would always talk to it. And I'd say, come on, now you know that you're going to be very difficult, but so am I.
Pascal is the only artist in the world to carve glass with hammer and chisel.
When you hit the wrong hit, there's only one thing to do. Walk away from it, go into another room, change your whole vision, and walk back, and maybe it isn't as bad as you thought it was. It might be an improvement.
Her creation of a new art form has garnered her worldwide fame and recognition.
The fourth dimension, because it's glass, is the interior. As you're cutting away, things are changing with the light refractions on the inside of the sculpture. That's the fourth dimension. That can make you or break you.
This passion for glass has led her from the mountains of Montana to a farm in Italy, from poverty to wealth, and from an unknown to an internationally recognized artist. Pascal's sculptures range from the very small to the colossal. The list of her collectors reads like a who's who of the rich and famous. President and Mrs. Ronald Reagan, John Kluge, Mrs. Henry Mancini, and Frank Sinatra.
She transports me to wonderful places. I look at that painting that she did of the flower fields in France, and I'm there. It's just wonderful. She affects me in very special ways.
This is it's tin, actually, and she's just made a few lines in it, but it's the swagger and the look. You know exactly who it is. It's Frank. And she did this as a gift for his 75th birthday. And it was a party held in New York, and the proceeds of the party went to the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center for abused children.
If I were to pick one thing of hers which is the most meaningful to me, I think it would be a piece that's in this box. And it was given to me on my birthday several years ago, and my late husband had commissioned Pascal to do a ring for me. I tell you something, it's such a beautiful possession of mine, and I'm really not a jewelry person, but I have a feeling that this may end up in a museum somewhere in the world years from now, and people will look at it and just admire it as I do.
Pascal is very, very special, and her husband too. Frank and I it was instant love the minute we met them. And we've had some pretty good times at parties together and so on. They're just very special people.
Pascal is famous for her dinner parties.
It's silly for me to take guests out for dinner where they really have come to see what I'm doing.
Guests are inevitably invited to view new works of art and sit down to an old-fashioned homemade pasta dinner. The art may change, but never the menu. Among the luminaries who have dined side by side are political figures and musical icons. After dinner, it wasn't a rare sight to have Frank Sinatra belt out a melody with Henry Mancini at the piano. The ladies would gather around the piano wearing their latest Pascal art-to-wear sculptures. And mingling through the crowd would be Pascal, always in her signature man suit and always with the same blonde top knot. But the road to Pascal's success was actually paved with numerous obstacles.
Nothing discourages you if you love it. If you plan to do it, make it your life's work. I knew I would never leave glass as long as I lived. And the only thing to do was to get in harmony with it and to understand it and know the dangers of it and the pleasures.
It would take Pascal close to 40 years to realize her dream of carving glass and to garner any type of accolade for her achievement. Pascal was born in the small western town of Helena, Montana in 1914 to a French father, James Pascal, and an Irish mother, and Kenny. As a young child, Pascal's fragile health, part of which was a hearing problem, made formal schooling a challenge. So to teach her daughter reading and writing, her mother would set up drawing papers and crayons. It didn't take long for Anne to notice Pascal's proficiency and love for drawing. Pascal would spend the entire day in the back of her father's candy and tea shop.
I never felt isolated or alone because I sketched very early. I started with, my mother would give me crayons and pencils, and I was always anxious to get back to them because they were my friends.
Then at the age of 4, the secure home Pascal had known was torn apart. Her father died in the flu epidemic of 1918, and eventually her mother was forced to close the shop. Money was scarce, but a family friend sponsored a visit to Italy where Pascal would have the opportunity to nurture her artistic talent. With great difficulty, Anne said goodbye to her 11-year-old daughter.
Well, the Attilio family were people that my mother knew. When I first arrived, I guess they thought that I was going to work in the kitchen because all I did was cut homemade pasta. They'd roll it out and I'd cut it and hang it up to dry. So I think they thought that's what I was there for.
It was in Italy that Pascal would first have the desire to sculpt.
Then I wandered out to the barn. They had kind of a barn. There was a man out there carving. And it was the first time painting I understood to paint because I was always painting something. But that was very fascinating for me, and I started then asking if I could have a little piece. So that started my carving.
Far away from home, Pascal found herself missing her family. But she remembered what her mother had told her before putting her on the train. God gave you the talent. It's up to you to set it free. At the age of 14, Pascal returned to the United States, where her family was now living in Seattle. Pascal studied art history for a few years, but her drive to be an artist made her restless. By the time she was 18, Pascal had scraped together what little money she had and traveled to the center of the art world, Paris. When Pascal wasn't studying with French Impressionist master Marcel Dieff, she was selling her paintings at the world-famous Place de Terre.
It was easy for me because we were all doing the same thing. We were all struggling artists. We all thought we were going to be masters, of course. I sold off the street. We all did in those days. We'd sit on the curb and hold up our paintings. You know, we needed money for wine. We had to eat. You lived for the day and for what you were doing.
After a couple of years in Paris, Pascal's mother wired her to come home. Anne thought she'd been away too long, and it simply wasn't proper for Pascal to spend her life selling paintings on street corners. Pascal didn't really want to leave, but feeling a duty to her mother, she made the long journey home to Seattle. Pascal's life would soon take a domestic turn. She would fall in love and marry famed band leader Jules Buffano. Jules was not only a band leader, but a composer, and the house was always filled with music.
Life with him was lovely because he worked all the time, so it gave me plenty of time to do the work that I loved.
Pascal's greatest dream was realized with the birth of their daughter, Jill. But eventually, the rigors of being married to someone who was rarely home put a strain on the marriage. Pascal and Jules divorced, and Pascal decided to return to the familiar surroundings of Seattle. A brief marriage to Al Rosenberg, a prosperous theater owner, followed. It ended after 2 short years when Al died suddenly of a heart attack. Seeking the comfort and support of family, Pascal moved with her young daughter to Los Angeles again, where now her mother was living.
every transition in anyone's life is drastic as that. When you lose someone, now you change your whole mode of living and move to another city. It's a bit disruptive. But fortunately, my mother was wonderful to live with. She was quiet, and I had my little girl.
While Pascal's mother cared for Jill, Pascal immersed herself in her art. She spent every hour she could in front of an easel painting. Pascal's mother saw her daughter's attempt to escape from her grief and decided they should take a trip abroad. They went to Greece. It was on this trip that Pascal saw something that changed her life.
Well, we were in a cafe, and this man was, we were just a little wooden table. They were kind of close together, as I recall, and he kept playing with this, and I could see it was glass, because, it sparkled a little bit, and then I kept looking and looking at it. My mother kept saying, well, why, what are you doing? You're not paying attention to what I'm saying. I said, no, this man's got something in his hand that's fascinating. She said, well, why don't you just go over and ask him if you can see it? I said, yes, good idea, I will. And I walked over and asked if I could see that lovely piece he had. And he said yes, and he showed it to me, and it was a head carved in glass. And I thought it was just beautiful. And at that time, I wasn't knowledgeable enough to know that it was taken from a mold and not hand-carved. So with this, not knowing that, I came home and started carving in glass.
The idea of sculpting glass would lead her on a journey to find a glass that could withstand being carved with hammer and chisel. Year after year, she attempted to carve glass, and year after year, she failed. It was also during this time that she started to sell some of her paintings. Pascal was thrilled that people would buy her work, and even though it didn't bring in much money, her confidence in her artistic ability grew.
I've never been scared in my life, because if you sat on the street corner and sold paintings for a living, you don't ever become afraid again, because you know you can, if you have hands that can develop something that you can sell, you don't ever have to be afraid. You can sell anything.
While her search for glass continued and painting remained a constant in her life, Pascal found herself ready to love again. She married international importer-exporter Maury Klein. Maury Klein wanted a wife who was always available to be whisked off to exotic locales, but Pascal wanted more time to spend with her family, not to speak of searching for glass and painting. This conflict ended their 10-year marriage. With the divorce came a mountain of debts. Klein left Pascal penniless.
Well, I think her life changed because she really needed to earn money to pay the mortgage, to put food on the table. She'd been left really with unsurmountable balance of debts, problems that she really needed to address in order to live and to continue to keep the house that she had been living in. And she had a daughter, and we needed to make ends meet. So it was definitely a struggle, and that was why I think she was even more determined that the art is what I do, it's what I know best after all of these years. Let's see if I can run with it and make something of it.
Pascal set out to market and sell her paintings and slowly gained a small following among her friends. But financially it wasn't enough. Then Pascal received a phone call.
And then a friend of mine, just by accident, told me, he said, he called me from Pittsburgh, and he said, you know, Pascal, when I was at your house, I saw you trying to carve all that glass. And he said, you know, I just bought a plant for the brick that's in it. He said, why don't you come back here and take a look? I've never seen, he said, so much glass in all my life. It's a glass plant that went broke. And so I did. And I couldn't believe what I saw. It was like a floor of glass. So I said, well, maybe I could buy this glass. I could come out here, I could stay here and work.
Pascal mortgaged her house to buy the glass. It was a tremendous risk, but one she considered necessary to realize her dream, carving glass with a hammer and chisel.
It was really up in the mountains in Dunbar, Pennsylvania. So I got an old man who had a Model T Ford, and I hired him to start the fire because the place was very cold and it was in the winter. And there was one room that he had this little stove, an old-fashioned, wood stove or coal stove. And so he said, what are you going to do here? And he thought I was kind of crazy. And I said, well, I'm going to get some of this glass and carve it.
It was luck that brought her to the glass factory. But before that point, it was a struggle to find glass that would be able to be carved. And then once the glass factory was found, once she had the luck of finding it, it was an obstacle. Now I found glass that can be carved. Now how do I go about doing it? There's no one to teach me how to sculpt in glass because there's no one that does this.
I had many failures when I started because, if you don't hit, if there's a striation in the glass, which I didn't understand in the beginning, if two striations are coming together in, like one from here and one this way, and you're trying to carve in there, those two are going to meet and the piece is lost. And I lost many pieces by not understanding and to be sure that there were no striations in the piece that I would be working.
Gradually, Pascal taught herself the delicate and dangerous art of sculpting glass with hammer and chisel.
It's a very difficult medium. You see, it bounces, it ricochets. And my legs, I used to wear boots because the glass would cut my legs. I was always pulling glass out from someplace.
You're getting more of the figure of the bird by cutting up. I'll cut this piece off here. Now you see how much better the bird is? I'll cut this piece off here, which is too big, too thick there. You see, it's a bird, but I want him to be looking right. I rather like this piece here, but how do you like it?
Glass is so reflective, and wherever you put it, or whatever time of day, it has a different mood, a different reflection, and there are times when it looks, if it's a face, there are times when it looks happy, there are times when it doesn't, but it's all a question of light and shadow. I carve near a window, and I look at it at different times of the day. And the light, it's right next to a window, so I can just step into my studio at 4 o'clock. It's different than 8 o'clock in the morning. And it tells me a lot about the piece I'm working on. All of a sudden, it becomes a person to me. Well, this was a nice, large piece of glass. I didn't have too many that were just perfect for working. But I wanted to do a torso, and the main thing that finally I figured out, I would make little pinion cuts, put little pinions in here to get this curve of the back. So I knocked in enough little pinions that I could hit them and pray that it came out.
Pascal would have another hurdle. Creating art out of glass turned out to be easier than selling it.
Because nobody would take me in America. I walked the streets of New York and I had taken photographs. I had a little photographer come out from Pittsburgh and photograph all my pieces so that I could take them to show, because you couldn't carry that stuff around, it was too heavy. And I went to New York and they weren't even interested.
The establishment, the galleries, refused to carry her glass and said that it was not possible to sculpture in glass, and glass was a new media that the galleries did not know how to market and did not want to market.
But Pascal hadn't searched years for the right glass and taught herself to carve this elusive medium to be turned away now.
She was waiting for someone to accept what she did. And it was very difficult when you try something and you're doing something new that no one else has done. People really don't believe that you can do it and that it's a possibility. And she said it is a possibility because I do it. Look what I've done, see what I can do.
So finally, a friend of mine who lived in Switzerland said, send me some of your pictures, and I did. And so she showed the pictures and she said, I think you better get over here. I think you could make a deal with this Simi Ube, who had the Ube Gallery. So I borrowed money and went there, and I managed and had my first exhibition at the Simi Ube Gallery.
At long last, after years of struggle and perseverance, Pascal was accepted into the European art world.
She really had to go to Europe for her first acceptance. That's where she had her first gallery exhibition. And after Europe and some of the galleries in Europe began to accept her and were mesmerized by the phenomena that she was able to actually carve glass with hammer and chisel, it was really very exciting. And then she was able to come back to New York to have some shows in the United States.
Now that Pascal's glass sculptures were a proven success in Europe, New York wanted to capitalize on her popularity. Gallery doors that had been closed now opened to welcome Pascal's glass sculptures. Success in her professional life led to success in her personal life. Pascal met and married James Regan. The fourth time would prove the charm. After over 20 years of marriage, they remain happily wed. Gradually, her work evolved from the abstract to the realistic, but this process took time and an enormous amount of patience. As Pascal honed her technique, more galleries and collectors vied for her work. One such collector was John Kluge. Kluge purchased Seated Torso, the tour de force of Pascal's career. This 7-foot-high, 2-ton glass sculpture took Pascal almost a decade to complete.
It was the tour de force of my life, really, because I wanted to do one piece that would just be.
I have a great deal of art where I entertain guests, and they all remark how interesting and unique the piece is.
It's the single largest carved piece of glass in the world, and he always wants the best. And I think in that he got it.
Pascal's growing success would lead to another obstacle. Collectors were requesting larger works of art that could be placed outside.
I needed to do something larger than I had any glass piece to do it with. So I thought, what else could I make it of? And then I thought of stainless steel. I knew that it would withstand the weather. That was also very important. Glass you could not put outside because it's porous, it absorbs the moisture. And the stainless steel just stays there forever.
Soon Pascal was commissioned to create monumental stainless steel sculptures.
To make stainless steel look graceful is rather a challenge, and I like the challenge, I guess.
Move it over to the right. No, the connection is not correct on the top.
Just no, bring his leg down a little bit further. We need that just, aha, aha.
That's fine, that's fine. That's all I need to know.
His welding has to go in there. Right back.
Aye.
Because she has to fly into him, it's very important that he be lower than she.
One major Pascal collector, Alice Tyler, commissioned Pascal to design a stainless steel sculpture entitled Man's Responsibility. This kinetic sculpture stands 25 feet high and moves with the wind. Alice Tyler's collection grew to include over 100 Pascal works of art covering all three media: painting, glass, and stainless steel sculptures.
It was just like I had one patron, you know, everything I was selling, everything to her she would buy. It was like somebody sent from heaven.
It was always Alice Tyler's wish that upon her death, her collection would find a permanent home in a museum for everyone to enjoy. This museum would be the prestigious Corcoran Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C.
Of course, I'm only sorry that Alice isn't here to share it with me. She would be so thrilled to see it here, as I'm very proud to have it here.
I like the boldness of a piece like the one which is behind me, where, you know, which takes a human torso and has the abstraction of the carving in the glass, or really the sense even of the energy of actually chiseling in glass. I mean, certainly one of the things that is unique about this work is that vigor that you see in a piece of this scale.
It's hard to not be touched by someone as creative and outspoken and strong as she is.
Well, I think part of the very special character of Pascal, to me, is her daring. I mean, she has dared to paint. She has dared to work large. She has dared to work very small. And that restlessness, which I find that she's not content with any one particular element, is a quite distinguishing characteristic.
It took Pascal over 40 years of hard work and determination to achieve what few artists are privileged to enjoy in their lifetime. Not only recognition, but appreciation for her significant contributions to the art world. Pascal has left a legacy to the art world and future generations by creating a new medium, carving glass with a hammer and chisel.
I am grateful to God for giving me this. There isn't anything else, in my opinion, that I think that I would have stuck with all these years if it had not been so provocative a medium.
Thanks for the buggy ride, thanks for the buggy ride. I had a wonderful time. No smell of gasoline, just an old-fashioned team. It was a wonderful treat to hear the patter of horses' feet. My bones were nearly broke, I took it as a joke. It was all new to me, 'cause I was used to riding in a big limousine. But buggy riding, loving sure beats any machine. Now although I lost my pride, thanks for the buggy ride, I had a wonderful time.